Okay, so something that I kind of realized, I read a lot of like these books, right? I mean, you share with me that you also do that. But like something that I realize always happens is that once, for some reason, you reach some level of success,
Yeah.
there's usually like some pretty bad downfall or struggle that happens. Example is like Steve Jobs. After he made Apple became quite successful, he was like kicked out. Has something like this ever happened to you?
I think for me, I haven't had a very, very big, drastic downfall yet. Hopefully, I won't. But I think for me, has it been a smooth sailing? On the outside, people might see that, the company run very well, growing very exponentially. Every single year, 150, 200% growth. But I think internally, there were a lot of issues that we had to fix.
Can you share some? Like, I mean, those that are not too private.
I think every single one is private.
Okay.
Very hard for me to share.
Fair
But it was hard. Sometimes I question myself, like is what I'm doing right for me? Or is the people I'm working with right for the company? Because right now, I can't just think of it from a fan point of view. I have to think of it from a business owner point of view. Because ultimately, I'm not only responsible for myself, but also responsible for, number one, the company in terms of the legal perspective, in terms of the people working for the company, but most importantly, the students, because that's who we're serving, that's who this company is for. Correct. So a lot of times I had a lot of problems that were quite difficult to solve, but I would say that I am a problem solver. So if any problem ever emerges, then I will make sure that I do everything it takes to solve it.
Nice.
Yeah. It's just that sometimes the stress does get to me, and sometimes I struggle a lot, but I think that's why it's very important to have the right team to support you throughout the entire journey. People that you know that they are not in it just for the short run, but there are people here that you can easily foresee yourself working with 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road. You can retire together. So I think that's very, very important, having the right people around you to get through these troublesome times. But to answer your question specifically, no, I haven't had any like specific big downfall. The good thing is right now we're growing at a very steady rate and have a very, very big team. So is it possible that there's going to be that big plunge? Yeah, anytime it can happen. But I think because we are not only very reactionary, but we are very preemptive in nature, we'll be ready to solve it when the time comes.
Nice, that's good. Okay, so you keep talking about this team, right? How do you kind of form this team? Like,
trial and error. A lot of trial and error. I would say that it's very hard for me to judge your competency and your long-term commitment just based off meeting you 1 time, 2 times. Even if I work for you like for a month, I work with you for like a month or 2 months, like it's very hard for me to determine. It's only over time. So sometimes I realize that this person isn't right. Sometimes I realize that this person isn't committed, or sometimes I realize that this person isn't competent enough to maintain the same quality that I expect. But I feel like ultimately at the end of the day, you have to constantly be on the hunt for the right talent, and you can never just say, I have a good team and I can just rely on them. I feel like you need to constantly expand and bring in people who are better to even raise the bar even higher than before. So my first math tutor was the 4th one I met. My first physics tutor was the 3rd one I met. My first chem tutor was the 6th person. Sorry, my current chem tutor is the 6th and 7th chem tutor that I met.
So that you work with.
Correct.
Like,
so
you met as in you work with.
So I have to bring in a lot of tutors, and because for me, I look out mainly for soft skills. I look out mainly for whether you're able to engage students. Because by right, I mean, if I hire you as a tutor, the competency is expected to be there. Correct.
It's like the basic.
Correct. So every single person I hire nowadays all have number one, subject relevant degrees. In the past I used to hire undergrads. Nowadays no, only either full time or MOE trained. So my next batch of teachers coming in, 3 of them are full time with subject relevant first class honours, or alternatively I got MOE tutors, 2 of them coming in. So in the past I used to hire undergrads. So the thing is, number one, they're not committed enough. So a lot of them, they try for a while, then it doesn't immediately take off. Correct. Nowadays it's different because I have such a big student pool. But imagine like you come in, there's a small student base and you don't grow immediately. It's very, very disheartening. So they don't really commit it to more than 3 or 4 months. But the thing is, because when I bring tutors in, I'm basically staking my reputation.
Makes sense.
On this tutor, I say, hey, I bring this person in, she's going to uphold the same quality. And very often, like, are they able to provide good lessons? Yes, but are they able to actually uphold the same quality that I'm providing, sometimes the answer is no.
Yeah.
And I have to talk to them and see how I can improve. So I see how I can help them improve, see how I can actually change the way that they are currently conducting their lessons to actually match the same quality that I'm providing. But sometimes it just don't work out. So then I have to say, hey, you know what? Like, I can let you teach, but the thing is, you know that you're not doing as good of a job that I'm expecting, and the students are not benefiting.
Yeah.
So what's the point? Because at the end of the day, I want to have a business whereby the tutors are in it long term. I want to have a business whereby the students benefit the most. So if the students are not getting the best out of you, and you know that you can't give your best, then I feel like maybe it's just the wrong time, wrong place. So I think it's constant trial and error, but I don't want to risk my students like that. So nowadays I have a very, very comprehensive interview process. I'm setting up a training program. My HR guy is actually developing a training program to actually have all these tutors come in to know what the expectations are, to get them to the quality that we want them to be.
Right.
But these things can only be done over time.
Yeah,
so I'll say that building a team is very, very hard because you always need to find the right talent. But just because they might have the competency, just because they might be what you're looking for, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're the right fit. Right. So I feel like you must be ready to actually embrace that sometimes just because you want them doesn't mean they're the right person. And I feel like often I always want people, I always say, hey, you're perfect for me, but sometimes they turn out not to be the right people. So I think at sometimes you need to realize that, okay, it's better for us to just part ways, because ultimately I think in a business, and when you're an employee or when you're a partner, it must be a win-win-win in terms of it wins for me, it wins for the company, it wins for you, it wins for the student. Everyone wins. Because I think my entire philosophy when I run the company, I think I told you before, you must be better off with me as compared to if you were to go out on your own. So with me, if you're not getting the best out of yourself, then what's the point? So I have people with me, I've literally told them, hey, I think you're with me, right? But the thing is, if you go do something else, tutors, like management, you're with me, but the thing is, if you go do something else, you can be happier or you can make more money. Then why are you with me? Correct? Because I'd rather give this opportunity to someone else who's 100% in, competent, and more importantly, they know that what they're doing makes them the most happy and satisfied, compared to you, whereby it's not that they're half-assing, it's just that they're not truly happy, or they're not making the full use out of their potential.
Right.
Correct.
Okay,
so I think
it's like holding them back.
Correct. It's holding them back, holding me back. So it must be a win-win-win scenario. Because I think in the recent 1 year, I've like two of people actually fall into that category. They're decent. They're good. They're good enough. But are they truly happy? And if they were to do something else, could they be better? I think that's very, very important, because I'm building a sustainable model. I don't want short-term profit. I want to make sure that the people in it with me are people that can see themselves doing it for 10 years, 15 years. And that's why every single person that comes in, I pay them extremely, extremely well, above market rate. I treat them as if they're partners. There's no such thing as boss or employees. Everyone is a partner. Everyone has a role to play. No one is, in a way, no one is dispensable.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we are going on to the last segment. Just kind of want to ask you for general tips for people who want to start something or venture onto something that's considered like quite unconventional. Like most of in Singapore especially, like our parents, even my grandma always tells me like, don't do other things, just go and study. So what advice would you give to someone that's thinking of doing these things?
Okay, I would say that there's no harm finishing up your degree first, then venturing off to try to explore like what you are interested in. But I mean, like, if you compare the two scenarios, let's just say you're still a university student, technically you have a safety net, whereby if you mess up your business or it doesn't go the way that you planned it to be, then technically you can still fall back on your degree. Compared to if you have your degree already and you go and try to do all these things, technically there's going to be an opportunity cost involved. You can go work a full-time job and earn money and take care of your family. So I'll say that once again, to each is its own. If you are still a university student, my recommendation would be to just try to dabble and slowly grow. You don't have to give your 100% and all in yet, but you can just see whether it can take off, and like whether you can build it to something where you're confident enough for you to say, you know what, I can actually focus more on my business, focus less on school. Not saying that you should just entirely neglect school. I think it's still important to graduate with a degree. I still think it's important to do well and give your best. But it's about what's best for you long term. Because ultimately, what's the point of getting a degree? It's really to make sure that you get into a career which you can see yourself doing long term. Correct? So if you can find out what is meant for you early on, I mean, that's perfect. And you should explore it, but you shouldn't really fully commit yourself to it until you're ready. So, you know how I thought about giving you 100%? I feel like giving you 100% only comes at a stage when you know that what you're doing is what's meant for you, and you know what you're doing is something that you can see yourself doing long term. So when I decided to give my 100%, I think at that point I really knew that this is something I could do long term. Am I 100% confident? No, but I knew that it's a possibility. It's a strong possibility. So that's why I gave my 100%. So a lot of students I feel like I have friends in businesses whereby they're doing well, but the thing is they don't know that they are ready to do it long term. And that's why even though they're making a lot more than a fresh grad, they're still not fully invested in it because they don't know whether they can do it for 10, 15 years. So that's why they're still focusing a lot more on school. They're not 100%ing on their degree, which is totally fine because once again, it's too general. I hate all this business advice because it's always going to be a very generalization of what you should do and what you should not do. But ultimately, it really boils down to your own circumstances and like your own position. So I'll say that ultimately, I think the most important thing that anyone should do is to really get yourself a mentor, someone who has been there, done that, and can give you solid business advice. And I can be honest, I feel like the community of entrepreneurs in Singapore is very, very strong and very, very supportive. Because I personally know a lot of business owners. I personally know a lot of people much older than me that are willing to give me advice. So I know that in Singapore particularly, the startup scene specifically is very, very close-knitted, very, very helpful of each other. There is competition, but I would say it's healthy, friendly competition. Even like I'm friends with so many owners of tuition centers. Whenever we go into lockdown, I literally get 6-7 texts coming in from other centers asking me what I'm doing. They share with them, then they share with me, and we collaborate a lot. So ultimately, I would say that with this mentor, they can give you business advice on what you should be doing and what you should not be doing. And I think it's important to have more than just one. I have 2 or 3 because some of them will be very, very good at maybe the technical aspect of the business. Other people will be very, very good in terms of the more qualitative side. So I feel like having business advice that are catered directly to your own predicaments will be better than if you just listen to me to get general advice. Because what I might say might work for some people, but what I say might not work for others. So get a mentor, someone probably in the same industry as you, for them to give you advice continuously, someone that you can constantly text, someone that you know that's willing to reply. And if you have a substantial business, then you can even consider giving advisory shares if that person is someone that you know that can truly provide you a lot of value, so that he has vested interest in you as well. But other than that, I think like it's very hard for me to give specific advice because I really believe that advice should be catered specifically to each person. So like very often I have a lot of people coming to me for advice. I realize that every single person I'm telling them different things. Like literally last week I had a meeting with someone who's running a fashion company, starting from scratch and now doing quite well. The fact is they're breaking even, which is good, especially because I think fashion, I mean at the start it's quite saturated and there isn't very, very high barriers to entry, but it takes time for you to build up. So I was giving him a lot of advice, and he said, wow, like he's going to law school. But now he realized that maybe like entrepreneurship is for him. I said, hey, stop right there. Go try first. And then if you don't like law school, if it doesn't resonate with you, because he's doing it just because of his parents, then you can switch to business. But to each is his own. I think it's very important to find someone that can provide you the specific advice and not just take it from me, because I have a very, very different circumstance as maybe you who are watching right now.
Actually, I think that in itself is excellent advice, because it's like, like there's so much stuff on social media nowadays, and then like people just take it out of context. So that's really good advice.
Like you can watch like Gary Vee or like Grant Cardone or like all these like very, very popular like inspirational speakers pertinent to like business, but I feel like it's very important for you to also selectively listen, because sometimes what they say might not be appropriate to you.
Yeah.
So you also need to make sure you're very careful. But then again, it goes into that dilemma. So what is he telling me? Is it correct or not?
Yeah.
Like, how do I know how to filter things out? And I think that's why it's very important to have someone to guide you along the entire process. Yeah.
So how do you find this like mentors?
For me, ironically, I didn't have any clear mentor. I when I first started, I worked for a startup, and then those my bosses then were my mentors per se. But that was like even way before NS.
Okay.
So very, very long ago. But I think that was my first mentorship per se. I think over time I didn't really have a specific mentor, but I got a lot of advice from others. So advice from my lawyers, advice from my seniors, advice from literally everyone. And I got a lot of advice, sometimes contradicting, but it's about taking this advice, but not like just blindly following. It's about really absorbing it, understanding it, and see how it might apply to you, and then making use of it, or making use of particular advice which you feel that will have an impact compared to just like blindly following everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, actually that's pretty damn good advice.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so like another question I have is what would you say to someone that's like currently struggling in what he or she, I mean I know that it's gonna be quite general, so but what kind of personal mindset should someone have before starting something?
Okay, I'll say that ironically, the word I'll use is you have to be realistic.
Right.
Because very often, I'll say most entrepreneurs are more optimistic in nature, so they only can see the good, but they can't really see the bad.
Right.
They
Makes
can't
sense.
really recognize other opportunity, and they can't weigh the opportunity cost well. They just blindly leap into it.
Right.
Because while I've seen a lot of success stories, I've seen a lot of failures as well.
Right.
So I feel like you must be realistic in terms of where can you see yourself in 5-10 years doing this compared to doing other things. Because if there are other opportunities that long term might be better for you, then you need to realize that maybe this isn't for you.
Yeah.
Like, you can do it for passion, you can do it for fun, but because we're talking about business, right? A long term career choice.
Yeah.
Correct? Then you need to be realistic with yourself, and you need to be honest. You need to make sure that you don't lie to yourself, because I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs always lie to themselves that, I can make this work, I can succeed. But is that necessarily the case? Maybe not. So I feel like you must first be realistic, and then after you're realistic, then you can really give you 100%. Because once you're honest with yourself and you know that this can go somewhere, this can work, then you give you 100%. But if you lie to yourself and then you give you 100% on something that you're not actually sure, you're not really confident, then actually you're just lying to yourself and you're doing more damage than good to yourself.
Right.
So be honest with yourself, really. Find someone to talk to. Doesn't have to be a mentor, can be your friend.
Right.
Share with him everything that you might think about pursuing this line. So I'll say that if you go back to maybe like Ishan a few weeks ago, like for example financial advisory, if you want to do something like financial advisory, talk to your friends. Like the thing is, people might have negative stigma, people might have contrasting opinions, but ultimately the decision is yours, and you want to gather as much opinions as possible. Don't let it influence yourself too much. It's just that you want to know more of a bigger picture. You want to get more information so that you can make a more accurate, I won't say accurate, but more
informed
choice.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you to all the viewers who are watching this, and I hope you really learn a lot from Evan. I think I really learned a lot. I mean, I've always been learning from him, but today I learned something new again. So I'd just like to thank Evan again. We'll put your tuition center, the link in the bio, and if you have any questions for Evan, just remember to put them in the comments. And if you like this episode, remember to like and subscribe. And if not, we'll see you in the next week.